In the latest example of Newt Gingrich's completely megalomaniac, grandiose episodes, he says that Mitt Romney is the weakest GOP frontrunner since 1920, and he references someone that nobody's ever heard of. For somebody who considers himself an historian, you'd think he'd be able to be a little bit more relevant with his anecdotes. Here's Newt Gingrich, awake for this interview, not sleeping.
Race and that the Romney's inevitable, but the fact is, Romney's probably the weakest Republican frontrunner since Leonard Wood in 1920, and Wood ultimately lost on the 10th ballot.
Come on, guys! Don't you know what you're talking about? This is just like Leonard Wood in 1920. Lewis, how could you not know that?
I love it. I love it. But people think he's a genius when he says things like this and think he knows everything.
That was some race in 1920. I mean, hardly a week goes by that doesn't find me referencing that point when Leonard Wood...
Referencing a race you weren't alive to see.
Yeah, when Leonard Wood did that in 1920, it just pops up in conversation all the time. It's a brilliant point.
You guys are missing the whole point. That is the point. The fact that you don't remember Leonard Wood, he's talking about Romney the same way. He's saying he's as ridiculous as this guy that no one remembers.
No, yeah, I understand what you're saying, but I disagree with you. This is one of those examples. This is Gingrich at its core. Gingrich is trying to show how smart he is, and he's referencing stuff.
How knowledgeable he is.
I get what you're saying. He's saying Romney could end up being as irrelevant as Leonard Wood was, but it's a comparison that's just bogus, and it provides no reference for anybody.
Well, he's saying Romney
that's
is
the point.
as irrelevant as Leonard Wood was, but I don't think that's the case.
Okay.
I think Newt Gingrich is as irrelevant as Leonard Wood.
Listen, we've had much more than 10 ballots already. He's saying Romney is the weakest Republican frontrunner since Leonard Wood, and kind of just saying it's inevitable Romney will lose. The reality is Romney's not going to lose.
It's funny because he's a stronger frontrunner than Newt Gingrich.
Yeah, right.
Let me just say this. We all talk about how terrible the anti-intellectual strain in the Republican Party is.
Yeah.
When someone mentions something that happened that you don't know about, you can't criticize them for being just like an intellectual snob for mentioning
I'm
it.
not.
This can't be the criticism.
On the contrary, it's like automatic validation of this man's political knowledge.
I don't think that's true at all. He's probably alienating his own Republican base by doing that.
Oh, okay, I don't know that I agree with that. I really don't know that I agree with that. I think we're arguing two completely different things here. And the fundamental thing is Gingrich is just wrong, because Romney is not the weakest candidate since 1920. He's not even the weakest candidate in this race, Lewis, okay? And Romney is not going to eventually be as unknown as Leonard Wood in 1920. That's just the reality. Gingrich is wrong.
Oh, I'm aware of this. Yes, I know.
All right, we'll leave it at that. I still think that we shouldn't be criticizing Gingrich for spewing out history that no one realizes, that really everyone should know about.
Yeah, that's not the criticism. And by the way, should everyone know about Leonard Wood in 1920 losing on the 10th ballot?
Well, you could make the case that that specific point isn't relevant, but Gingrich is by far the smartest and most knowledgeable Republican, and probably a lot smarter than most Democratic candidates, excepting maybe Obama.
I agree that Gingrich is I've been saying that for months. There's no argument for me there, Lewis.
He knows his stuff to an extent.